Hey everyone, it's Sean from Chicory's Travels. And for those of you that are new to the channel, Julie and I were full-time travelers for 6 years. And this year we've recently gone down to part-time travel because we had our first grandchild and Julie wants to spend time with our new grandson. So when we purchased our first RV many years ago, it was a fifth wheel and we stored it for the winter for that first period that we had it. And we had it winterized and put in the storage lot. And being newbies to RVing, never having owned an RV before, we thought it was winterized, so it should be okay. So then we just left it alone in storage. Well, when we took it out of storage on our first trip, we noticed that our toilet seal had dried out, the toilet valve was not working correctly. We just had some minor issues that we should have caught over that storage period. Also, our batteries, which were lead acid batteries, did not work quite as well as they should have, which caused problems with our residential refrigerator when we had it out camping. So now that we've purchased a house and are no longer full-time traveling, we had to winterize our RV again this year. But I have learned lessons from my first experience and now have a monthly process for keeping the RV checked and monitored over the winter, even though it is winterized. I'm lucky that I'm able to have my RV on my property, but you can even do this process when the RV is in a storage lot. So let's get into it and I'll show you my process. First, you have to turn your battery cutoff on. Some RVs have more than one, so make sure you check them all. There are different types of batteries for an RV. The two main categories are lead acid batteries and lithium batteries. If you have lead acid batteries, it is best to fully charge them, take them out of the RV, and store them somewhere warm where you can place a trickle charger on them, or at least monitor the charge. Also, you need to monitor the fluids if they are wet batteries because there's still some chemistry actions going on in there, and there's going to be times when you're going to need to add water. I have lithium batteries, which makes life much easier. These are essentially no maintenance batteries, and with my solar panels, they remain charged as long as there are no issues. So I first check the batteries and wiring to make sure everything is tight and there are no issues. I also check the battery monitor to make sure the voltage is good. A little later, I will show you how I further inspect the batteries using the app for my battery monitor. Also, when I'm in the compartment, I check the inverter charger. I keep it off during storage, but while I'm looking at it, I use the app to turn on the inverter portion. It is a little out of focus, but you can see the green light turn on and showing that the inverter is on. And I'll show you more about the inverter as well on the app when we get to that part. Now that the inverter is on, I work my way around to the door and stop at the propane cabinet and turn on both the tanks. Make sure when you turn on propane, you turn the nozzles all the way to the on position where they won't turn anymore. Also, when you turn them off, make sure you turn them completely off. I also tap them to make sure they have propane in them and there is not a leak somewhere that I need to investigate. After the propane, I go inside the RV and turn on as many lights as I can and also turn on the furnace. This kills two birds with one stone. I'm exercising the batteries and making sure the furnace is putting out heat. I let the furnace run for a while and also light the stove and burners to make sure all of that is working. While the furnace is on, I take a look at my apps for the batteries and the inverter charger. I use Victron products, and this is one of the reasons why. I pull the app up on my phone, and it shows the battery status in great detail. I can see the amps flowing out of the batteries while I am running the furnace and have the lights on. This app will also show me what power I am bringing in or if I am at a deficit. It also shows the percent charges the batteries are, the time remaining, as well as the current voltage of the batteries. The inverter app shows how the power is flowing through the inverter. It appears that I'm using about 2.2 amps of power on the AC power side of the RV. This is probably for the refrigerator, which is set currently at the warmest setting. We do that for storage. The rest of the amperage from the batteries that we saw in the battery monitor app is probably coming from the DC side. I continue to monitor these while I am in the RV and want to see some of the battery being used. While I'm waiting for the furnace to heat the RV, I also go in the bathroom and check the toilet to make sure there is still some antifreeze in the toilet. You do not want the fluid to evaporate or drain out. This will either dry out your seal, or if the fluid's already drained, may indicate an existing problem with your seal. After I'm satisfied that everything is working appropriately, I go in reverse order in shutting things off. I turn off the furnace and the lights in the RV, then I shut off the propane, inverter, and the battery cutoff switch. I have portable generators that I store in my garage when we are not taking the RV on a trip. It is important to run the generator at least once a month for 1 hour at a 50% load. As you can tell by my struggles in starting these are hard to start after sitting just for a month, which is why it is important to run them. Also, make sure to put fuel stabilizer in the fuel since they are sitting so much. And then while they're running, make sure and plug some stuff in so you're using at least 50% of that generator. So that's the process for what we do with our Arctic Fox 27.5L when it is winterized. It takes a couple of hours a month of time, but it is important to avoid and detect any problems with your RV. I hope this was helpful for you. I ran the systems in the RV using the batteries, but you could also do it with your generator if it is not convenient to use your batteries. Like if they're lead acid and you have them stored somewhere, but you have an onboard generator, you can do that same process using your generator. That will also give it that 50% load that we were talking about that the generator needs. Let us know in the comments what checks and processes you do with your RV when it is winterized, and maybe we can add more to our process from your feedback. We hope to see you down the road at some point, and until we do, safe travels, everyone.